you know, where countries are contracting parties to a convention. And that convention is the International Plant Protection Convention. It has very key interest in pest surveillance. And then at your level of national plant protection organizations, you also definitely have very key interest, and other stakeholders have key interest in pest surveillance. The private sector, the general population, similarly have very key interest in pest surveillance. Also because we know what potential damage that pests can do. You know, they damage, of course, not only crops, they also damage the trees, the tree cover available, all kinds of vegetation available. They interfere actually with the ecological systems. Should there be a pest outbreak, and it is even worse if a pest that was not originally there just came in. For countries that have had experience with the fall armyworm, you have seen how devastating it has been. And therefore, there are lots of interest in pest surveillance. So we are going to look at the interest and then the importance of pest surveillance. So we begin by saying that the IPPC under Article 4, Paragraph 2B points out, you know, gives the mandate to do pest surveillance to national plant protection organizations. And again, the IPPC itself requires contracting parties to justify their phytosanitary measures based on risk analysis and international standards for phytosanitary measures. And if you are going to make that justification and basing it on risk analysis, you therefore need to have done pest surveillance. And therefore, surveillance is at the foundation of pest risk analysis and most of the ISPMs. We'll get to know ISPMs that draw, you know, their relevance from ISPM 6. And ISPM 6 talks about surveillance. When you want to understand what actually this pest surveillance is, you go to Glossary of Phytosanitary Terms, which is elaborated under ISPM 5, and then it will tell you that it is an official process where you collect and record data on either the presence or absence of a pest. And you do that by survey or by monitoring or any other procedures. And remember that the FAO definition of pest does not only, you know, talk about insects. A wide range of other notorious things are called pests. Weeds are called pests. Fungi, viruses, nematodes, name it. All those are lumped up under pests. So ISPM 5 would give you a very clear definition of pest surveillance. It's not defined as pest surveillance, it is defined as surveillance. So remember that it is an official process, and where it is recorded as an official process, it means the mandate is given to NPPOs, and therefore this training therefore becomes very relevant to you as teams coming from the various NPPOs. And surveillance actually help you assess changes in pest species in a particular locality at a consistent interval over time. So you can actually get to know the pest diversity in terms of the species diversity in a particular area. And then when you do it at a consistent interval over a period of time. So this is what pest surveillance will assist you. It can also assist you actually to determine the losses that you are incurring. It could be losses on a crop, it could be losses on vegetation, losses maybe on forest cover. If that can be quantified, then you can actually then use that information, you know, to lobby maybe policymakers to incorporate it within the policy instruments. So pest surveillance is actually therefore very, very key. So before we continue, there are also very close concepts that is related to surveillance. You have the concept of pest survey. You also have the concept of pest monitoring. And survey is actually when you collect information on insect population in a given locality at a specified time. You will have planned for it and said, today we are going to the western part of the country, and we are going to spend there maybe a week or so looking at maybe a specific pest, or maybe just trying to assess the pest diversity, the species diversity of pests in that particular region. So you have it's location specific, and also it is time specific. And that therefore refers to survey. So you are collecting detailed information. Whereas pest monitoring is when you are determining the number and life stages of a pest present in a specific location. So when you determine number, the numbers could actually be affected by so many other things. It could be affected by maybe climatic conditions, the weather, if it is raining, if it's a rainy period, maybe the numbers are reducing because the rain seems to be killing them off or washing them away. And then the life stages. The life stages normally are very, they're critical life stages in certain pests that are very destructive. For example, the family of the butterflies, the Lepidopteran pests, their caterpillars are the most destructive stage. So you go out to do pest monitoring and you want to assess the life stage. You might find a very destructive stage, and it's devouring all the crops in that locality or all the vegetation in that locality. So the number and life stages is critical for pest monitoring. And then when you are doing monitoring, you actually want to get guidance on whether to take action or not take action. If, let's say, the populations are continuously increasing, that can tell you that there is also a likelihood of this particular pest organism, shifting or dispersing from that locality and invading other areas as well. So increased numbers, it means you can almost, holding other factors constant, you can almost predict that this particular pest organism is likely maybe to migrate and invade some other areas. And therefore you use this to determine whether to take action or take, first observe. So most of your functions that you undertake actually are hinged on pest surveillance. And surveillance, you use it to establish a national pest list. I don't know, you will share your experiences with us if you have a pest list for your nation already generated or established. The last time I worked with NPPO Uganda, there was nothing at the time. I don't know what it is like now. Surveillance also help you in the establishment of regulated pests list. Regulated pests can be regulated non-quarantine or regulated quarantine pests. When it is regulated and quarantine pest, it means that pest organism does not occur in your country. And therefore, you have to take keen action to ensure that it is not introduced. And if in case it is introduced, it is contained and eradicated. So regulated non-quarantine, the pest organism is there, but you also don't want to keep getting many more populations entering into your country from other places. So its population is being monitored, it's being put under control, but it's actually not eradicated. Pest surveillance also will help you to do a PRA for establishment of phytosanitary requirements. When you are, let's say, exporting to a trading partner, they would require, first of all, your pest lists, so that they get to know that certain pests that you have. You are not introducing certain pests that you have that they themselves don't have. And therefore, this is key. Pest surveillance is also used in pest, establishment of pest regionalization. Things like establishment of pest-free areas, pest-free places of production, areas of low pest prevalence, pest-free production sites. So these are regionalized, areas of production where the levels of pest infestation, this one, pest-free areas, is entirely free of that particular pest, and it is being officially maintained. And each time you keep updating your trading partner, we are at 0 level. These are the actions. These are the corrective measures we are doing. Pest-free places of production. You could also have established it and you are maintaining it. But this one is established in, let's say, a country that has that pest. But that specific place of production does not have that pest, and it is still being officially maintained. Areas of low pest prevalence is the same issue. The pest population, that specific pest population is low and is still being officially maintained and communicated. Pest-free production sites, these are things like if you're producing in greenhouses and you're maintaining this greenhouse free of that specific pest, and you still go ahead as an NPPO to communicate to your trading partner. In order to conduct pest surveillance, you as an NPPO, you actually require a surveillance plan basing on the rationale of the survey. And this plan this rationale of the survey could include, you want actually to alert the population or alert the producers early enough so that the necessary actions are also taken timely. You might also want to do an early detection and rapid response. Like, for example, if a new pest came in, it is trying to establish, but you want to do surveillance to detect where it is so that it is contained. And then you take action, you plan very fast and act rapidly. You might also want to just have, to just be generally prepared, just in case that pest has negative, of course, all pests have negative impacts. But just in case the impact of that pest affects a very important sector. We've mentioned forestry. We've also, I forgot to mention biodiversity, and then your crops. The essence actually for doing pest surveillance, you should know the objectives of your country. All contracting parties of the IPPC have very similar objectives. They want to protect trade, and therefore they want to comply with the requirements of the trading partner, and therefore they must contain the pest. They also want to protect the environment and the biodiversity, the plant biodiversity that is in that environment. And therefore, this is also very key. So there are two reasons why, countries endeavor to contain pests. And in order to contain it, you need first to know the status of that pest. So what does it take when you're planning this surveillance program? As an NPPO, you are actually responsible for this plan and then managing it. You should take into account, whether that technical and financial feasibility. Technical means, the technical feasibility means you have the technical expertise available, to be able, first of all, to conduct the survey. Remember that later on in the course of this training, we'll get to know that surveillance has a lot of statistics in it. The way you design it, the way you go out, the sampling pattern, the samples itself, the kind of samples you take, the data analysis, the data management. So you will require a very good technical expertise. And of course, NPPOs are normally limited in terms of this. The technical expertise are very few. And therefore, you'll find at a later stage that you may have to engage other institutions that have relevant technical expertise. We know that surveillance is very expensive, and therefore the finances to support the surveillance activities have to be there. And therefore, when you are planning, take this into account. You also take into account your relation with stakeholders. Remember that there are key stakeholders who will have interest in pest surveillance, particularly pest surveillance data and pest surveillance report. You might find some of your stakeholders are exporters or producers or policymakers, and therefore take note that your relationship with the stakeholders is good. And therefore, as an NPPO, please go ahead and establish these good working relationships with the stakeholders. And the stakeholders will actually come and support you if they know that they will derive benefit from the program. If it is going to enable them, if by doing your surveillance, you will take action on the problematic pests, and then they are able to produce clean products that will meet the export market requirements. And therefore, that means that is an area of benefit to them, then that will now drive them to come on board and support you. And therefore, ensure that your relationship with them and your communication with them, and also how you put issues across to them is very clear, so that they understand it right from the word go. So it is the responsibility of NPPOs to define the purpose and benefits of surveillance program. So as an NPPO, try to establish the current, benefit of the program, and then the future. Project the future and see, if we don't undertake pest surveillance now, what does the future hold for us? What does the future hold for our agriculture industry, the crop-based industry? So once the stakeholders are now clear on the benefits they will derive from your surveillance program, they can now come in and provide support to you. They can actually give you human resource, and this human resource should be those with the technical competence on pests and pest management. So you get this kind of human resource from the academia. You also get they can also support you with funding if you engage them very well. In fact, an area of engagement that we'll go through later is to have a very clear policy, to have a legislation that clearly defines the roles and responsibilities of other stakeholders in pest surveillance. So once it is reflected in your legislation or other policy instruments, then they will definitely understand that they are actually to support you. So I referred this. This is a body within the IPPC, a secretariat. They do implementation review support system. So this body goes ahead and assess the level of implementation of ISPMs. So they made their assessment. They actually made their assessment sometime back to assess the level of implementation of ISPM 6. And ISPM 6 is on surveillance. So their findings were, one area that was key about their findings was that NPPOs actually can divest some of their activities to relevant stakeholders. And this comes about when you incorporate them within your legal instruments. So this is the reason I made this reference. So and then of all this, you actually need to communicate very well. The way you communicate among yourselves internally as an NPPO, and then externally as NPPO and other stakeholders, will either draw people around you or draw other institutions around you, or it will, you just chase them away. So communication, effective communication is very key. And it's important that an NPPO, assigns a manager maybe that, handles this kind of engagements with stakeholders. And therefore, communication becomes very key. So the second part, which is actually also now very short, is the importance of pest surveillance. And I am going to present it diagrammatically. Pest surveillance is ranked at the same level as import regulation, export system, and pest regionalization, as presented in the next slide. So you see, and therefore this actually answers for you the drag and drop. You see, you as an NPPO, you are here. You have other important organizations you are engaging with. You engage with the Regional Plant Protection Organization. Our RPPO is the one I mentioned under the African Union, AU IPSAC in Yaoundé, Cameroon. You also engage with the IPPC. You engage with other entities within your governments. You may recall that when you do pest surveillance, you might find that you need data, you need weather data, for example, from the meteorological sector. You may also find that you need to engage with the people who do environment protection. You might also want to engage with the people, let's say, who work in game parks, in protected areas. So they fall under this. So you as an NPPO, you are engaging with these other communities. And you might also have a third-party service provider. For example, maybe you have divested a part of your pest surveillance services to a third party. So you're getting also information from them, and you're also communicating, to them. This is more or less like communication and reporting. So just to show you that pest surveillance is very important. So you are there as an NPPO, and then, they are ranked at, pest surveillance is ranked at the same level with import regulation and pest surveillance and everything that goes with it. So you see surveillance, you get your national pest list, you do your pest risk analysis, you have your regulated pest list, and then import regulation, which is at the same level of with pest surveillance. Under import regulation, you are doing regulatory frameworks, infrastructure, procedures, and import verification. The same thing with export system and pest regionalization. This, however, draws also its strength from surveillance, drawing its strength from ISPM 6. So you see the importance of this. So, and therefore this will require that as NPPOs, we actually lobby. We lobby to decision and policy makers, also to give pest surveillance a priority, because it's ranked very high, and we should also take it very seriously. As NPPOs, really, when the surveillance work, please kindly don't shelve it and say we are going to, we had planned to go to the field this week. There's this pest outbreak in the northwestern part of the country, and therefore, because of ABCD, we are going to shift it. We shall do that in 2 weeks' time. By the time you get there, the pest has changed, first of all, from let's say the larval stage, it is an adult and it is not there. It has migrated 200 kilometers away. So please take it as a very, very serious, component of your responsibilities. And I think this is where this presentation stops. I want to thank you so much for paying attention and following through. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grace, for that great presentation on the phytosanitary systems. And I think on that end, we are really 4 minutes into the time. I would give a room for questions from the participants, Q&A. If there's anything that you think we should elaborate on from that presentation, we can pick it up right now. I am begging for 10 minutes of your time so that we end at 11:10. Already it's 11:04. Kindly, if you'd allow me. So on that regard, do you have any question? Just raise up your hand. I'm able to see you, and then we can poll you.
Shelter has a question.
Shelter is raising it physically. She's supposed to click on the screen there, raise hand, and then I see you. Okay, Shelter, go on. Yes, Shelter, go on. You are muted.
You are muted.
Okay, I've unmuted you. Now go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Frederick. I would like to ask on the export system, there's a little bit of information that I did not quite get clear on the resources, infrastructure, and the other part, and also on the regionalization part of it. Can Grace elaborate on that one? Maybe if she can also put again the
Let me just share it again. Let me share again.
Thank you.
Oh, I think I did not share. I just opened. Just a moment, please. Jesus Christ.
No, you can see your screen. You have shared.
Can you see it? But it's not giving me,
yes, just maximize the screen.
Yeah, but it's not giving me, to put it in a slideshow mode.
Then close and then close, open, and then.
It's a bit inactive. Eh? Let me share again and see. You see, it's still inactive. It's still inactive.
We can see where it's supposed to mark, but okay, they just explain. It's okay.
If you are able, Shelter talks about import regulation. She wanted me to explain a little bit more on import regulation. And I know there is a specific ISPM that talks in depth about this. It should be reflected. By the way, all these roles and responsibilities of the NPPO should be actually reflected within the legal framework, within your policy documents. I think the one from my country, I don't know what it is called, but it is, I think, a 2006. I don't know whether 2006 or 2016. The Ugandans working in the NPPO can correct me. It used to be a very old thing, and then it was reviewed, and the other one was revoked, and then the new one is adopted. So all these have to be. All these are therefore to be reflected within the legal framework. And that is why here it is mentioning the regulatory framework. The import regulation, the regulatory framework is the legislation itself, and then the regulations. Remember that from the policy, you come to the legislation, and then the work to make the legislation operational, you develop regulations. And therefore the regulations for implementing the law, the plant health law, should be able to elaborate a lot more on how NPPOs regulate imports. So when you are importing a plant product or a plant part, this is actually referring to when you talk about trading plant and plant parts, you are talking about unprocessed. So if it's fruits, you're talking about the fruits which are not processed, not canned, you know, not juice, not fruit juice, not canned fruits. But if it's a mango, it is a mango fruit. If it's orange fruit. And therefore also the vegetables shouldn't actually be the dry part. It should be the fresh ones. Those are the ones that have the potential, you know, to carry pests. Okay, the dry one could be relevant if you can still identify, because fungal pests, the spores of fungi can still come in it. And therefore the regulatory framework reflected here are the regulations actually. So the regulations are more elaborate than the law itself. It should be able to define what is required or what is expected of an NPPO or the competent authority to be able to do import regulation. Then the infrastructure, these are things like actually laboratories, establishments, laboratory establishments. So if in case you imported an item or a consignment of fruits from somewhere and you suspect that is carrying some organism which could be, you know, dangerous, you should have an established infrastructure or laboratories or a system that will enable you to identify or to diagnose what kind of pest you are looking at. And then the procedures, of course, should be very well, the laboratory procedures. What you should put in place a system that, you know, the employees or the scientific workers of the laboratories are able to follow. Systems that are, sometimes you call them quality management systems in situations where they are used. So the infrastructure is talking about the laboratories, the equipment, the tools, name it. Let's say we can also talk about things like chemicals that can help you do your work as an NPPO. And then import verification. This is more or less like inspection of a consignment that has been imported. So you need all this in place to empower you to say, or to empower you to take a decision that, okay, this import from country X is good enough. It's not going to bring us, you know, pests, new pests that will establish and destroy, you know, our industry. You also asked on pest regionalization. Regionalization, I think, is just sort of like a new terminology, but it means you are defining this. You have the pest, and then you are talking with authority that in this particular area, pest A does not exist. Does not exist. If it doesn't exist, then that area is free of that pest, and therefore you term that area, that production area, a pest-free area. So you can again still talk with authority, but remember I did emphasize that it has to be officially maintained. Official maintenance means the NPPO periodically goes there, does surveillance, does monitoring, takes corrective measures if in a pest-free area, a place you've designated as a pest-free area, suddenly begins to have that pest. So you as an NPPO should take the necessary action to bring that pest population to zero level for you to stand and say with confidence that we have maintained this area pest-free. And therefore regionalization is just like you as an NPPO doing the official maintenance talking with the authority that this area is pest-free, this area has low pest prevalence, this is a pest-free production site, this is an area this is a pest-free place of production.
Grace,
I hope this,
there.
Yeah, that's where I'm ending. I've ended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now you need to stop sharing your screen now.
Oh, I've stopped now.
Participants' time is really well spent. If you have any more questions, kindly chat us on the group for us to be able to answer, to attend to them, because I asked for 10 minutes and it's already 14 minutes past, so I don't think I can do anything more. Real quick, I just want to share with you guys the assignment so that you're able to know what you will be expecting. This is the group assignment 1. You are asked to identify and list the pests that are currently being prioritized in your country. And then number 2, you're asked to state the activities being carried out by your NPPO to perform surveillance on the pests identified in one above. We know that you're cognizant that you're coming from different regions. I think it would be interesting to know what other countries are focusing on in given to the task on pest surveillance, and then can compare notes in regard to your country. So basically this is how it's structured. So just answer the name of your country, group members, and then list the pests here, and you may want to state the country that's focused on that given pest. And then on Friday, your group will make a presentation on this pest, and then you'll be able to interact with them and see how you guys are implementing the surveillance in regard to phytosanitary systems. And then for the assignment 1, the individual assignment, the other one was group work. So this is individual assignment. You are required to complete this template and upload to the platform. And the question is that what are the guidelines on establishing the pest prioritized in your country? Basically, leveraging for what Grace has just discussed. So you may just tell us the guidelines here that you're using to establish pest or priority in the respective regions. And then once if you're more than 6, okay, share with us your insights, upload this in the platform, and they're good to go. And then of course, go online, interact with the sequence 1.1 and 1.2 before Friday. Otherwise, Grace, I want to stop it there at my end and ask participants if they have any question. If they don't have any question, then you can end it here.
Thank you, Dr. Frederick. Jen
Grace, yes.
Jen is asking whether it's possible to post the assignment on WhatsApp.
No, Grace, you have to use the COLEACP platform. You don't post them on the WhatsApp group. Kindly don't. It won't account for your grading. Thanks for that question, Jen.
And by the way, if you engage, it's a very interesting platform. If you engage with it a lot, you'll find that there are lots of interesting things. Things there. You'll master how to use it, and you'll also master how to do your assignment and submit. By the end of the training period, all of you will be experts. So, Dr.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was saying that it's the Cohort 1 team are even using it for their own NPPOs in their learning and their training. So I think it's a good tool to use. So just love it. Grace, kindly end the meeting for us.
Yeah, thank you so much, participants who joined us today in the training on the first module of the NPPO Pest Surveillance Digital Training. We are so happy that you could join. We hope that the materials we've shared with you, though it's at the initial stages, still builds a foundation, will build for you a strong foundation on pest surveillance that you can use in your NPPOs. Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to wish you a very lovely day and good health for you and your families. And from me and Dr. Frederick, we want to say have a good day. Go ahead and do your assignments, and we meet again on Friday.
Any questions, reach out to us, they're available. Yes.
We'll meet again on Friday, 11 to 1 o'clock East African time. And from us, bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye, everyone. Yes, yes, bye.
Bye.